When we talk about emotional investment, we're not talking about grand gestures, dramatic confessions, or movie-style romance. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that intense attraction always looks loud. Psychologically, it rarely does. Real interest reveals itself quietly, consistently, and in ways that are easy to overlook if you don't know what you're paying attention to. This is something Matthew Hussey often emphasizes. Attraction isn't proven by what someone says when emotions are high, but by what they choose to invest when nothing is forcing them to. Here's the key idea. Emotional investment costs energy, time, attention, mental effort, vulnerability. These are limited psychological resources. People don't spend them freely on things they don't care about. So, when a man is truly interested, his mind starts allocating resources towards you automatically. Not because he's manipulating you, but because his brain has decided you matter. This shows up first in attention. Attention is one of the purest forms of psychological investment. When someone is emotionally invested, they're not half listening. They remember what you said 3 conversations ago. They follow up on things you mentioned in passing. They notice changes in your mood, your tone, your energy. This isn't accidental. From a psychological standpoint, our brains tag emotionally significant information as important, making it easier to recall later. So when he remembers details about your life, it's not a trick. It's evidence that your presence has weight in his mind. Then there's curiosity. Emotional investment creates a genuine desire to understand you, not just impress you. He asks questions that go beyond surface level facts. He wants to know how you think, what you value, what frustrates you, what excites you. Philosophically speaking, this is the difference between wanting to possess someone and wanting to them. The former is ego-driven. The latter is connection-driven. And connection is where real attraction lies. Another subtle signal is emotional regulation around you. When a man is deeply interested, he becomes more aware of how his actions affect you. He might soften his tone, clarify his intentions, or explain himself more thoughtfully. This isn't weakness. It's emotional intelligence activated by care. When someone doesn't care, they don't bother adjusting. When they do care, they calibrate. There's also the willingness to be emotionally exposed. Investment increases vulnerability. He may share doubts, fears, past experiences, or insecurities, not in a dramatic oversharing way, but in a measured, human way. From a psychological lens, vulnerability is risky. It opens the door to rejection. People only take that risk when the potential emotional reward feels worth it. That's why this is such a powerful signal. No one emotionally opens doors they don't secretly hope you'll walk through. Importantly, emotional investment isn't about intensity, it's about direction. Someone can be intense but inconsistent. That's not investment. That's impulse. Emotional investment has momentum. It moves forward. It builds. It looks like someone integrating you into their mental world. You start to hear where, instead of just I, plans include you without effort. Decisions subtly take you into account. These are not conscious tactics. They're psychological shifts. This matters because many people confuse chemistry with commitment and attention with attraction. But chemistry can exist without care. Attention can be fleeting. Emotional investment, however, creates gravity. It pulls behavior into alignment over time. That's why this point flows directly into consistency. Investment wants stability. When someone has emotionally invested, inconsistency becomes uncomfortable for them. Their actions start matching their feelings because misalignment creates internal tension. And this is where your power lies as the listener. You don't need to chase signals. You don't need to decode every message. You simply observe where emotional energy is being spent, who shows up when it's inconvenient, who remembers without reminders, who adjusts, follows through, and includes you naturally. These are the behaviors that reveal emotional priority. The philosophical takeaway is simple, but profound. People reveal what they value not through promises, but through patterns. Emotional investment leaves footprints. Your job is not to persuade someone to care, but to recognize when they already do, and to choose accordingly. If you remember one thing from this, let it be this: never fall for words alone. Watch where emotional energy flows, because that is where the truth always lies. After emotional investment comes something even more revealing. And this is where clarity replaces confusion, consistency. If emotional investment is the feeling, consistency is the behavioral proof. And psychologically speaking, consistency is one of the hardest things to fake over time. Anyone can show up once. Anyone can be charming on a good day. But sustained, reliable behavior requires internal alignment. It requires intention. One of the ideas Matthew Hussey often comes back to is that attraction without consistency isn't attraction. It's volatility. And volatility feels exciting at first, but it's emotionally expensive. The human nervous system craves predictability when it comes to attachment. That's not romance dying. That's biology protecting you. Consistency shows up in rhythm. The rhythm of communication. The rhythm of effort. The rhythm of presence. When someone is genuinely into you, their behavior develops a pattern you can rely on. Not perfection. Not a obsession, but steadiness. You hear from them without having to wonder. Plans don't constantly dissolve. Interest doesn't spike and disappear. From a psychological standpoint, this happens because inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance. When someone cares, their brain wants their actions to match their feelings. Otherwise, it creates internal friction. This is why mixed signals are such an important red flag. Mixed signals aren't mysterious. They're information. They usually mean one of two things: internal conflict or low priority. Either the person doesn't know what they want, or they know that isn't you. At least not enough to act consistently. And neither of those is something you can fix by being more patient, more understanding, or more accommodating. Consistency also reveals emotional maturity. Someone who can show up regularly, communicate clearly, and follow through is demonstrating regulation. They're not governed purely by mood or impulse. Philosophically, this matters because attraction that lacks discipline becomes chaos. And chaos, over time, erodes self-worth. You start negotiating your standards just to keep the connection alive. Now, this doesn't mean consistency looks rigid or robotic. It doesn't mean constant texting or grand weekly gestures. It means coherence. Words match actions. Interest matches effort. Promises match follow through. The tone doesn't swing wildly based on convenience. And when something changes, it's explained, not ignored. Here's the key psychological insight. People are consistent with what they value. We make time for what matters. We remember what matters. We protect what matters. When someone is inconsistent with you, they are being consistent about something else. Often their comfort, their options, or their uncertainty. Consistency also creates safety, and safety is deeply attractive. When someone knows where they stand with you, their nervous system relaxes. They're not guessing. They're not chasing clarity. This is why consistency deepens attraction rather than killing it. It allows emotional investment to grow without anxiety constantly draining it. And notice how this flows directly from the first point. Emotional investment wants expression. It wants structure. Consistency is the structure that allows connection to deepen. Without it, investment leaks out. With it, trust builds. And trust is what allows someone to move from interest to commitment. This is where many people unintentionally undermine themselves. They over-explain inconsistency. They intellectualize it. They say things like, "He's busy," or "She's just guarded," or "It's just bad timing." But psychology doesn't care about stories. It cares about patterns. Patterns tell you where you stand. The most empowering shift you can make is this: stop asking whether someone likes you and start observing whether their behavior creates stability in your life. Attraction that destabilizes you is not attraction you need to chase. Consistency isn't boring, it's grounding. And grounding is what allows passion to last rather than burn out. When someone is truly into you, you won't need to decode silence or read between lines. Their presence will feel clear, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just solid. And that solidity is what allows the third key point to emerge naturally: the desire to add value to your life. Because only when someone is consistent can they truly support, uplift, and build with you. So, take this with you. Don't romanticize confusion. Don't mistake unpredictability for depth. Measure interest by reliability, not intensity. Because the people who are serious about you won't leave you guessing. They'll leave you grounded. Once emotional investment is present and consistency has created stability, something deeper begins to emerge almost inevitably: the desire to add value to your life. This is where attraction matures into intention. It's no longer just about how you make someone feel in the moment. It becomes about how they fit into your world and whether they can contribute to it in a meaningful way. This is a point Matthew Hussey often circles back to, because it's one of the clearest indicators that someone isn't just interested in having you, but in building with you. Psychologically, when a man is truly into you, his sense of identity starts to expand. He no longer experiences life purely as me versus the world. You become part of his internal framework for decision making. Adding value doesn't mean fixing your problems or rescuing you. In fact, that's an important distinction. Healthy attraction doesn't come from feeling needed in a dysfunctional way. It comes from feeling useful in a respectful one. He wants to support your growth, not replace your strength. He encourages your ambitions rather than competing with them. He takes pride in seeing you do well, even when it has nothing to do with him. From a psychological perspective, this is tied to purpose. Humans are wired to seek meaning, and one of the strongest sources of meaning is contribution. When someone is emotionally invested and consistent, their brain naturally looks for ways to contribute value. That value might be emotional, being present listening, grounding you when you're overwhelmed. It might be practical, offering help, advice, or resources. Or it might be symbolic, standing beside you, backing you publicly, and making it clear you're not alone. Notice how subtle this is. It's not performative. It's not about proving worth. It's about alignment. He doesn't help to earn points. He helps because your well-being has become relevant to him. Philosophically, this is the shift from desire to responsibility. Not obligation, but responsibility. The kind that's chosen freely. This is also where protection comes in, and protection is often misunderstood. It's not about control. It's about care. He becomes more mindful of how situations, people, or even his own actions might affect you. He wants to reduce unnecessary harm in your life, not create more of it. And importantly, this protection respects your autonomy. It doesn't shrink you. It supports your boundaries. Another sign of adding value is encouragement. Someone who is deeply attracted to you doesn't feel threatened by your growth. They don't subtly discourage you from changing, learning, or evolving. Instead, they reinforce it. They see your potential and want to be part of the environment that allows it to flourish. This comes from security, not ego. Insecure attraction wants to keep you small so it can feel big. Secure attraction wants to grow with you. This is where many people get confused and settle for less. They accept attention without support, chemistry without care, presence without contribution. But attraction that doesn't improve your life in some way is incomplete. It may be exciting, but it's also draining. Over time, it asks more from you than it gives back. Adding value. Value also shows up in long-term thinking. He doesn't just think about how things feel now, but how they might look later. He considers consequences. He weighs decisions. He includes you in his vision of the future, not in vague fantasies, but in practical ways. This doesn't mean everything is planned out. It means you're no longer excluded from the equation. And this ties all three key points together. Emotional investment creates attachment. Consistency creates trust. Adding value creates direction. Without direction, relationships stagnate. With it, they evolve. Now, here's the empowering part for you as the listener. You don't have to demand value. You don't have to negotiate for support. You observe whether someone naturally enhances your life. Do you feel more grounded around them? More encouraged? More yourself? Or do you feel anxious, depleted, and unsure? The philosophy here is simple, but demanding attraction should be additive. not subtractive. The right connection doesn't require you to abandon your standards or shrink your expectations. It meets you where you are and invites you forward. So, as you step back and look at the full picture, emotional investment, consistency, and value. Remember this, real interest doesn't just make you feel wanted. It makes your life better. And the moment you distance the next, the moment you start choosing connections that add to your world instead of complicating it, everything changes.